Hi, I'm Waite, author of Online Business Startup, and this afternoon I'm going to be giving you my top 5 tips for writing proposals and meeting deadlines. So my first tip is to provide realistic time estimates. You don't want to set yourself up for a fall by telling somebody you're going to do something for them tomorrow when actually it's 2, 3, 4 days worth of work. So providing realistic time estimates to your customers, it gives you that target to work towards, but more importantly, it manages the expectations of your customers. And I've got a good example of this. Actually, this was about managing expectations before I even got the gig. But I had a sales inquiry from a large client who had about a dozen different brands within their business, and they wanted to create a mothership website sitting across all of the top of the group, and then a website for each of the 12 or so brands which they had. So I set off on a 3-hour car journey down to see this client, and the MD actually ignored me pretty much when I arrived there, despite being introduced to me. I sat through a 2-hour meeting. It was actually a really positive meeting, and the marketing director thanked me, and he was really he said that it was a really productive meeting, and things looked quite positive. So I jumped in the car thinking that great, I've got this this wonderful project. And at the time, it was just me and my business partner working on our own. And an hour into that 3-hour journey home, the client called me on my mobile phone and said, "Oh, I'm really sorry, Rob, but we narrowed it down to two clients. You were one of those, but we really liked what you pitched to us, but I'm sorry, we've chosen the other company." I said, "Oh, do you mind just telling me why?" And they said in a very few words, essentially, that they wanted to work with an agency with 10 or more staff. They didn't want to work with a 2-man band. And so had I asked the question to start off with, and we'd managed each other's expectations, actually, not just what I was telling them, probably I could have avoided actually getting in the car and doing a 6-hour round trip that lasted the best part of the day. So actually managing expectations is really key. My second tip is to get signed proposals. This allows a buffer for delays and additional features, and the reason for that is that it's something that you can refer back to if you start to encounter problems. So, for example, if the customer starts adding for extra features but isn't willing to negotiate on the deadline, well, you can draw them back to proposal and say, well, look, this is what we agreed, this is the number of hours I said it would take to build these features, and this is the date we agreed to launch it. Now you want another 40 hours worth of work completing. That's going to push the deadline back. So scope creep is something which is quite common on kind of especially web-based projects, which I've historically worked on over the last 12 years. Over the duration of a project build, people do change their minds, and sometimes scope creep is unavoidable. But learning to say no really to customers is vital at that point, just to kind of, again, manage their expectations, but say, no, this is what we agreed, refer back to the proposal that they signed and agreed as well. It just makes life easier for both parties to manage. My third tip is to regularly review the progress of your projects with the customer. So doing things like Scrum meetings, so like on a daily basis, jump onto Skype, or if they're close enough, have a quick 5-minute stand-up meeting with them and let them know what you worked on yesterday, what problems you had, and what you're going to work on today. What this does is it keeps the customer happy, it keeps them up to date, they can see that progress is happening. Even if there's no progress, they're happy that there's just contact with you, and that they haven't just paid you the deposit or all of the money and they don't really know what you're doing. Also, what it means is if you review it regularly with those Scrum meetings, you can uncover those problems and you can react much sooner. And it's not just problems that you might be having, but it might be problems that the client has seen with what you're doing, that he says, oh, well, that's not quite what I had in mind. And you can pivot and react much more quickly. Tip 4 I mentioned earlier on is to actually say no to your customers. And this isn't a negative thing. It's not being difficult or anything like that. It's purely about managing expectations. Sometimes clients think they know what they want, but they don't always know they know what they want, if that makes sense. So you're here as the professional to manage their expectations, and a great tool for this actually is the Get Real triangle of time, quality and cost. So typically if in regards to time, so if somebody wants to bring a deadline forward, it might have an impact. It might reduce the quality, or it might end up meaning that they've got to pay more for it. If they want a higher quality product, it's going to take longer, it's going to cost more money. And if they want a cheap product, it's likely that it might take you longer to build it, for example, because you're going to prioritize higher paying jobs, or the quality might come down, so you might do it in the quick amount of time, but you might just have to let go the high quality kind of standard that you put on things. But again, manage your expectations, and you say, well, look, you want a cheap product, this is what I'm going to build, it's not going to be as good as my platinum quality product. And in saying no, it means you're not overcommitting yourself to deadlines, and because that can add a huge amount of pressure, not on you, but also on your customers. So you can say, look, to the customer, if they don't understand it now, they might realise later that you're doing them a favour by saying no to their requests. My fifth tip is to inform the customer at the earliest possible time if a deadline is going to be missed. This is all about damage limitation, basically. You don't want to get to launch date, day 0, and then for everything to go kaput and for the client to lose it because you've told them that you're going to be a week late on what, they've got like PR lined up and TV interviews, and they're going to be driving thousands of visitors to the site, and there's all sorts of, they're doing talking at a show, for example. So this is all about making sure that at the earliest possible stage, that if the client has got other things lining up in regards to the product or service you're delivering for them, then you can limit that damage and you can hopefully pivot and move forward much more quickly. They may not appreciate it at the time, but in the end they will appreciate the honesty in this, and it just gives you the extra buffer to react to things. So to summarise those key points, tip 1, make sure that you provide realistic time estimates within the proposals you're writing for your clients. Get those proposals signed so that it's an agreement then between you and your clients. Tip number 3, regularly review the progress with your customer against what you put in those proposals and have regular scrum meetings. Tip number 4, definitely learn to say no. And finally, tip number 5, inform your customer at the earliest possible point if the deadline is going to be missed. So thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found some useful tips. Now, if you want to know more, then go to my website, which is www.onlinebusinessstartup.co.uk, or check out my book on Amazon, which is Online Business Startup. So thanks once again for watching the video. I hope you found some of the tips helpful, and if you've got any questions, then please do leave some comments in the boxes below the video. If you want to be informed about any future videos which I upload, then please click here to subscribe. And then finally, if you haven't already, head on over to Amazon using this button just here to buy the book, Online Business Startup. Thanks for watching. I'm Waite.